Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. I thought it'd be a cool video to kind of go over my earned income over the years, to look back on wages and hopefully see some growth in there. Now, I'm gonna go over my earned income from the very first year I started filing taxes, and I didn't actually keep track of this on my own. Many of those older tax returns have long since been done away with. Probably would have been cool if I kept them, because I remember after my grandparents passed away, going through their house, seeing their tax returns from the 40s, the 50s, 60s. It was pretty cool to see their wages back then, but I am the kind of person where clutter stresses me out. So when I can throw it out, I throw it out. So they've long since been done away with. All I did to find these numbers is go into my account at Social Security Administration, just ssa.gov. If you don't have an account there, I highly recommend it. You can see your earned income every single year you've been filing taxes. You can see what your projected benefit would be with Social Security, whether it's early, full, or delayed retirement, and every year in between. So if you don't have an account there, I highly recommend it. Now, it's gonna be pretty easy for me to remember my main job or the main career I was working during those years, but I've had a lot of side hustles over the years, so I will do my best to remember the side hustles I was working at the time. The first year I had any reported wages was 1999, and it was for $4,506, and I was 12 years old. Now, when I was 12, I was doing odd jobs like pet sitting, lawn mowing, shoveling snow. It was Michigan. There was plenty of snow, lots of driveways needing to be shoveled, and then also feeding animals on my friend's farm. Now, I didn't actually know that 12 was when I started filing taxes. I didn't remember it, but I kind of remember earning money at a young age, just doing odd jobs. And I guess by the time I was 12, I was doing it enough that my mom was like, hey, you're paying taxes on this money. In the interest of keeping things somewhat succinct, I'm gonna group some of these next years together. Between 2000 and 2005, which was the year I graduated high school, my wages ranged from a little bit over $5,000 to a little bit under $9,000. I was still doing a lot of those same side hustles, but notably I got my first job. I worked at Mountain, which is a ski resort in northern Michigan, and I also worked at my dad's office filing charts and developing x-rays. Now, it's pretty common if you grew up in Boyne to go work at the mountain because it gets you a free ski pass, which otherwise would run you something like $500. So I remember at the time, like half my class worked there. It was a lot of fun. I also remember that I was paid minimum wage, which was $5.15 an hour. I actually thought that was pretty good at the time because I remember comparing it to my allowance at home. At home, I would get my age per week if I did my chores. So if I was 13, I got $13, assuming my chores were done. I also spent some time tutoring kids in my class, and I worked at a local senior center once a week teaching a computer class to seniors. From 2006 to 2009, I was in undergrad. My income hovered between a little bit over $10,000 to a little bit less than $14,000. In college, I worked as what they called a deskie. So I basically worked at the front desk of either the dorm or the apartment complex that I lived at, and the job was nothing crazy. You sorted mail and let people in their rooms when they got locked out. So that was pretty much it. But honestly, I loved this job. I got to know pretty much everyone that lived in my building, so it was a great way to make friends at college. And also, being that there wasn't that much to do, I just brought my schoolwork, and so I got my homework done while I was supposed to be working. I do remember it paid minimum wage, which at the time I think was $7.35 an hour. I know it was 7 something, but I think it was $7.35. I also met my college boyfriend while working at the desk. His name was Steve. He subsequently dumped me right before graduation, and I vowed never to date another Steve. Well, years later, I married a Steve, so I guess never say never. I also became a personal trainer at 19. I've always been really into health and fitness, and this was a wonderful job for a young adult. First and foremost, up until this point, every job that I've worked had been minimum wage. This was my first job that exceeded that. There were some times where I would make $35 an hour or even $50 an hour, which to me was mind-blowing. But also, personal training is a very personally rewarding career. You really get to know people. I've had clients where I went to their weddings or met their children, met their spouses, celebrated strength gains, weight loss wins. It's all just really special. So I mean, it's just very, very fulfilling. In the summers, I continued personal training, I worked at my dad's office, and I also cleaned some rental properties. 2010, the first year I graduated, my income was $53,277, and I got a job as a receptionist at a dental office. Not my dad's office. My dad actually sold his dental practice when I was in my final year of college and he moved to a different area. But being that I had worked at his office over the years and had that on my resume, I'm sure it's a big reason as to why I got the job. The job paid $45,000 a year and I thought it was amazing. I also got a job working for Boyne Resorts again. This time I went to one of their hotel properties, so I would work there in the evenings after I finished at the dental office. Pay wasn't great. It was somewhere around minimum wage again, 7 something, but it allowed me to save aggressively towards my goals. I was working very long hours, but I was okay with it. I do remember why I quit that job though. I asked for a weekend off because my grandpa wasn't doing well, so I was gonna take that weekend and go see them. They denied my weekend off, and then my grandpa ended up passing away the following week. I was so furious because if something like that happens, you can't make up for that. That time is gone. There's no way to undo that. So I put in my 2 weeks the day after he passed away, and I vowed to start my own business so something like that would never happen again. I'm gonna group 2011 and 2012 together here. I went to graduate school, I was still working at the dental office, and the income was $57,275 and then $54,383 respectively. I was still working as a personal trainer at this time, so between working at the dental office, working as a personal trainer, and the occasional other side hustle that I would throw in and schoolwork, these years were just busy. In 2012, I started a small marketing business and it was rough. I put a lot into that business over the years, but ultimately the business failed, but hey, you learn a lot from a business failure, that's for sure. I'm definitely a cautious person. I've always freelanced. I've always worked on the side. I'm not the kind of person to jump in 100%. I like to make sure my bases are covered, aka I like to still keep my day job while trying to start another business. So anytime I've tried to start a business, I've always done it just in the evening hours or on weekends. 2013, my income was $61,254. I took a new job as the manager of a dental office. I got a pay bump up to $50,000 and it was a field I was comfortable with. It's never a field I intended to stay in actually, but just something that I was comfortable with, something that I knew. I did actually do a few interviews with a mainstream personal financial management company, and I distinctly remember when they talked about their fee structure. At this time in life, I'm saving and investing as aggressively as possible. The interview team was wonderful. They were very open. They talked about their salaries, which were very impressive. But then when they turned to talking about the fees that they charge their clients, I got a knot in my stomach. I just remember like, I would never pay that fee to let someone manage my money. How could I, in good conscience, ask someone to pay that fee? So I just knew it wasn't for me. And at this time, I was still working my regular job and side hustles. So my main job is what I stuck with, and the side hustles made up the difference in income. 2014, my income was $70,870. In addition to my day job, I started doing some consulting work in the dental field, so the consulting work made up the difference between the income of my day job and the annual income. And when people say consulting work, I always kind of pause and I'm like, okay, but what do you actually do? So what I actually did was increase patient base, increase patient retention, negotiate fees, increase collections, basically just help the businesses run in a more profitable and efficient manner. I also helped with practice sales and mergers. In 2015, my income was $68,463. I went to a multi-dental practice company at this time and my pay was $55,000 a year. I took on more of an operational management role. So I was still working side hustles. That's why there's a difference in the pay. But funny enough, I found I really liked my job. I swore I was never gonna stay in this field. It was just something I was doing in the meantime. It's not what I went to college for. But I really liked what I was doing and I liked growing in my role. 2016 and 17 income was $73,288 and $68,402 respectively. The work was much of the same until October of 2017. Earlier that year, my husband and I got married, and in October, we moved to Washington State, at which point my income went to 0 and my anxiety went to 100. Turns out, me without a paycheck is a very stressed out version of myself. And while I had loved my job, I didn't go back to the field right away because I still wanted to have my own business. I wanted to control my own schedule. So I figured, why not try to start it while I have the time? And my husband was very, very supportive. In 2018, my income was $22,489. My hubby told me to simply focus on my business at the time, which was very stagnant. Hello, look at the income. He said, don't worry about our expenses. He would cover everything. And I was not okay with that. I was not okay with him covering everything. I hadn't been without a paycheck for as long as I could remember. I couldn't imagine or bring myself to ask someone for money to buy something. So I didn't. I literally bought nothing. And I want to make it very clear. It was not my husband. He couldn't have been any more supportive. He would tell me, don't worry about things. You don't have to ask. Just put it on the credit card. Live your life as normal. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to just continue living as normal. There were times where I was so stressed and so frustrated, I would just end up crying. To me, being without a paycheck made me feel incredibly vulnerable, and I hated it. So in the interim, I returned to side hustles like personal training, dog walking, pet sitting, even doing things around our apartment complex. I would wash windows or clean the clubhouse or walk the property and pick up dog poo. My husband even helped with that one, which was nice. But ultimately, this got our rent down to about $200 a month, which was amazing and allowed my husband to become a super saver as well. This was my year of the side hustle. If you name a side hustle, I probably did it. Even during this time, I became an insurance agent for life and health. Never did a thing with it, but hey, never hurts to have. 2019, income was $44,723. Guess what? I returned to dental. Just when you think you're gonna get out, it sucks you back in. Well, at least it did for me. So I returned to working in dental and let the gas a little bit off the side hustles. I continued a couple of them, but not much. 2020 and 2021, income was $83,399 and $82,720 respectively. I continued working in the dental field. I actually got another job working for an insurance startup in the dental field. So I was actually working 2 full-time jobs. Not the first time I've done this. Hello, throwback to my hotel days. At first it was fine. I didn't mind it at all, but over time it became increasingly exhausting, a little bit stressful, and I kind of felt like I was drowning. And in 2020, just because I didn't feel like I was doing enough, I started this YouTube channel. Obviously, I make these videos about personal finance. Personal finance is a huge passion of mine. It's actually one of my degrees. The other 2 are business management and nutrition. Fun fact, I actually took all of the coursework to become a CFP, but I never actually took the test. I couldn't see a way to actually make a decent living and be a fee-only advisor, so I kind of figured, why bother? You might notice if you look for a fee-only advisor, they're kind of hard to find. Yes, they are out there. They're few and far between, but there really are some great ones out there. But most people do operate on AUM, assets under management, and they do that simply because it's most profitable. So ultimately, I just make fun little videos as someone who's passionate about the subject, but never worked in the field. But I was still working a ton, and I started to feel like I just didn't have any time. So in December of 2021, I stepped away from the office I was working for. And then earlier this year in 2022, I actually left the startup. But that's also around the time that I started my own business. And guess what? Yep, it's still in the dental field. And I love it. I finally have a business that works, and I'm having so much fun with it. It took a lot of time to get here, but I love what I do, and I can't imagine doing anything else. And as for 2022, the income, well, the year isn't over yet, and I don't want to have to go rifling through everything, so that's going to be a video for next year. New businesses come with their own set of challenges, but in 2023, I will be hiring a few employees, so I am super excited about that. You might notice that I've never particularly been a high income earner. For instance, I've never had a 6-figure income. And so much of my 20s was just focused on saving and investing and sticking with what I knew that I think it kind of limited my earning potential. I would have these chats with my brother and he's like, you can't just save your way to $1 million. And I'm like, yes, I can, watch me. But I knew what he meant. He wanted me to find a way to boost my income. But in my 20s, I had a little bit of stubbornness and kind of an attitude of scarcity, born largely out of health issues, brain tumor, seizures, things like that. I was just so hell-bent on reaching financial freedom and doing it on my own terms. I just put my head down and I'm like, I'm gonna work hard and save aggressively. Had I pursued a higher paying job, it probably would have made my life easier. But that's a mistake I made and I'm okay with it. You kind of have to move past things. I think I kind of lost the forest for the trees, so to speak. And nowadays I've kind of shifted my perspective. I'm trying to grow my income, whereas before my perspective was get an income and save it. Get an income and save it. Doesn't matter what it is, just save. The career you choose dictates your income. And I hit the income ceiling where I was, unless I wanted to start my own business. So I did. And funny enough, I was never going to stay in this field. This was just the job I got after college to pay the bills. I got a job in the field I was familiar with. I knew I could get a job there and I just sort of ran with it. With time, I got comfortable with it and I grew to love certain aspects of it. So nowadays, I can say that I actually love my job. I love what I do and I love who I work with. So I feel like it all worked out and I feel really lucky in that way. So that's my income over the years. You guys want to share yours? If so, leave it in a comment down below or let me know your thoughts. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye.